my channel. As I have told you all earlier that today I will be talking about mnemonics. Since you all know that NCERT is Bible for all the NEET aspirants, but at the same time it's very difficult to remember each and every word of all the chapters. So today I will be talking about mnemonics, which would make it easier to some extent to remember. So today I'll start with plant kingdom chapter, because when I was studying this chapter I faced the same problem. सुबह मैं पढ़ती थी and next day मैं भूल जाती थी. But when I got acquainted with the mnemonics, till today I remember each and every example of this chapter. So I will be talking about this chapter. This is the condition of my NCRT. So at first I will tell you all mnemonics of example of chlorophycin, pheophycin and rhodophycin. Starting with the examples of chlorophycin, that is green algae. So its mnemonic is, memory code is green spiral bhola ullu chala charne. So it's very easy ki green spiral bhola ullu chala charne. So now I'm going to tell you how this mnemonics is going to represent the examples of green algae. So green means green algae. Spiral represents Spirogyra. Vola represents Volvox. Ullu represents Ulothrix. Chala represents Chlamydomonas. And Charne represents Chara. So it's very easy. Green, spiral, bhola, ullu, chala, charne. So green for green algae, spiral, Spirogyra, bhola, Volvox, ullu, Ulothrix, chala, Chlamydomonas, charne, chara. So just means believe me, just repeat it 5 to 6 times. You will never forget these examples. Now coming to brown algae, and इस mnemonic is लैम्प को fuel दो एक्टो को सारा चीज़ दिखाई दे. It's very simple. लैम्प को fuel दो and after getting enlightened एक्टो को सब कुछ दिखाई देगा. तो एक्टो को visually how this mnemonic represents the whole example of brown algae. Let me show you all. You all can see I have covered all examples: Ectocarpus, Dictyota, Laminaria, Sargassum and Fucus. So it's all examples are here: Laminaria, Fucus, Ectocarpus, Sargassum, Dictyota. Now coming to red algae or Rhodophyceae. So its mnemonic is red, great, gelly, polypody. Very easy, red, great, gelly, polypody, only 5 words. So how this mnemonic is going to represent the examples of Rhodophyceae? Let me show you all. Red represent red algae, very easy. Great means Gracilaria. Jelly means Jellydium. Polysyphonia. And this poly represents Porphyra. And see, I have covered all examples: Polysyphonia, Porphyra, Gracilaria, Jellydium. I have covered up all the examples: red algae, Gracilaria, Jellydium, Polysyphonia, Porphyra. So believe me, just you have to memorize it 2 to 3 days. You are never going to forget till your NEET exam. Bryophytes. So in reality there are 3 classes: Hepaticopsida, Anthoceratopsida and Bryopsida. But in NCERT only 2 classes are given, that is liverworts and mosses. So we'll be not talking about Anthoceros. So in case of liverwort, there is only one example in NCERT, that is Porella, which is also known as leafy liverwort. So it's very easy to remember. But in case of mosses, there are more examples. So I will tell you one mnemonic there. So for mosses, there is a mnemonic called more fun polysphere, where more is representing mosses, fun represents funaria, poly represents polytritium, and sphere represents sphagnum. So just write it down in your NCERT, just here. Write it down here. Here under the heading mosses, it will be easier for you to remember. Write it down: more fun polysphere, where more represents mosses, fun represents funaria, poly represents polytritium and sphere represents sphagnum. important part of this chapter, that is the life cycle. Many questions come every year from this topic. So there are, as you all know, there are three types of life cycle: haplontic life cycle, diplontic life cycle, and haplodiplontic life cycle. So for haplontic life cycle, I don't have any mnemonic. Very easier to understand that some species of algae fall into this category. As you all know, ki some many algae like Volvox, Spirogyra, and some species of Chlamydomonas fall into this category. But for diplontic life cycle, I have a very small mnemonic which should be easier to remember, and you are not going to mess it up with the examples of haplontic or haplodiplontic. And the mnemonic is GAF. GAF. For this is for diplontic life cycle. GAF, where G represents gymnosperms, A represents angiosperms, and F represents fucus, which is an algae. So it's very easy to remember GUF. This is for diplontic life cycle. Now coming to haplodiplontic, it's very important from NEET point of view. Haplodiplontic, and I am giving it a star marks because it's very important, and its code is keep BP, where K represents kelp, E represents ectocarpus. As you all know, it's a brown algae. P represents Polysiphonia. It's a red algae, great Gelly polypody, as I have told you, the mnemonic red algae. B represents bryophytes. It's easy to remember bryophytes. And P represents pteridophytes. So keep BP. Very important. Told you every important examples of this chapter. So this life cycle, among all those things I have told, this life cycle is very important. Just remember those mnemonic, and it will be easier for you to remember in the exam, to note it down and stick it on your wall, so that you can wake up every morning and see those examples. It will be easier for you to remember, and believe me, you will never going to forget. You are not going to forget till your exam. Like this video, then give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel, and comment me below that it useful for you or not, so that I can make another videos on another chapters.